good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're calling in and joining us from today. Thank you very much. Hey, we're a little bit late today to start the show, but we appreciate you being here. And we're actually really excited because this is the first episode of a series that we're going to be calling Demo Deep Dive, which is really fun for me as a developer advocate, as a technical marketing manager here at Red Hat, because there's a lot of cool technology that doesn't always get shown, and especially in a technical way, right? We talk about things and we make blogs and content around it, but we don't always get into the weeds of things. So what we're going to be doing in the next few episodes, including this one, is really diving deep into the capabilities for Kubernetes, for AI, for hybrid cloud, for open source, for Linux, all of the different open source software that we work on here at Red Hat, and all of the different capabilities for all across the enterprise. We're going to be taking a look at. And the first episode is very special because we've got my buddy here, Luiz Bernardo Levenhagen, who is likewise a technical marketing manager here at Red Hat. Luiz, thank you for joining us today. Feel free to introduce yourself, what you've been working on, and what you do.
Hey, thanks, Cedric. Yeah, I'm Luiz. I am a technical marketing manager here at Red Hat. My primary focus is multi-cluster management. I like to joke that nobody has just one cluster, right? So I guess my goal is just to, help people, solve their issues with multiple environments, clusters, Kubernetes. And yeah, I'm excited to be here for the first episode.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. You got a cluster at home and you got a cluster at work, and it all starts to get a little chaotic. So I'm excited to see what we're going to be talking about today in ACM, or Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes. And just before we hop into the actual demo and we walk through some of the capabilities and some of these updates, in general for this show, we're going to be taking one singular project or product in the open source or Red Hat enterprise space. We're going to be going through the actual demo. And if you scan that link that's on the top left of the page, you can actually interact with the same demo that we're going through. You can learn more about it. And there's an entire repository of different demos that you can access for AI, for virtualization, for hybrid cloud, for containers and Kubernetes. So highly recommend that you check that out, and that'll bring you to that link down there, interact.redhat.com. But these will be about 20 minutes each episode, so it's real quick. You can listen to it as you're going about your day. And without further ado, Luis, let's go ahead and hop into it.
All right. Let me just go to the right screen. All right. I see the arcade. So I'll just go through the arcade really quickly. This will be a demo that demonstrates, the main features that we just announced in the latest release for ACM. And it's really interactive. I'll be going through each one of them, and I hope for this to be excited as I was when I learned about them. So I don't know, Eric, should I go in the first one? What's the?
I'm thinking, so for me, I've worked on developer tools for a while, and I don't have as many clusters to manage. So what is ACM, and what is it doing for the users that
Right.
work with it?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. It's a good question because we can start from the start. So ACM is Red Hat's solution for managing multiple Kubernetes clusters, right? Like we were saying, organization companies, they all have multiple clusters for many reasons. Whether that's, developers staging, testing, and prod, or they run applications on high available applications. Could be geographical reasons, right? They want to have a cluster or an environment in the US, another one in Europe and Asia. So there are many reasons, right? And the challenges that we see from hearing those customers is that they face a lot of difficulties when managing multiple environments in that sense, right? So at Red Hat, we build, create, and develop advanced cluster management, or how we like to call it, ACM, to help them solve these kind of problems, right? So that's little bit of a basic overview about ACM.
Thank you, man. Yeah, okay. Very exciting and a very common situation that I feel like a lot of us are in. So let's check it out. So the first one is virtual machine observability and control.
Exactly. So let me just jump right in. I'll be going through the first one. And this one is primarily aimed to show what ACM can do for virtual machines and containers as well, right? Because initially ACM was just designed for managing Kubernetes clusters that run pods and containers, right? But within the latest releases, not only 2.14, but 2.12 and 2.13, we added capabilities for admins to pretty much manage virtual machines side by side with containers, right? Because we know that a lot of organizations are going through modernization journeys. So all of them, they have applications running on virtual machines, and some other applications are running as pods. So we want to make sure we give them one single platform for them to be able to manage all of that complexity, right? So I'm going to jump right in and show what ACM looks like. This is the ACM UI. Sometimes we call it ACM console as well. So you see you probably see the term console. It just refers to the ACM UI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have this virtual machines visualization, right? The virtual machines menu, as I can see on the left navigation bar. And it primarily shows all the virtual machines that are running in the OpenShift clusters that ACM is managing, right? So in ACM, I can manage, like I said, I can manage my OpenShift clusters. I can manage also the hosts that are physical hosts that are part of my environment, as well as virtual machines. For this demo itself, we're just focusing on virtual machines. And on this screen, you can just see the inventory list of all the virtual machines that are available for the admin to see when he logs into ACM. That's the first thing he sees when he clicks on the virtual machines menu, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go ahead and see. I'll just pick an example here because that's the next step. I'll pick an example of one of the VMs that are available in ACM, which is Fedora-AI, right? So if I click on one of those VMs, I can see some information, right? I can see the name, the cluster it's running on, some annotations, who is the owner of that virtual machine, things like when this virtual machine was created, and some other information. You see some conditions at the bottom. So this is primarily a informative type of screen, so the admin can just quickly see what is that VM, if it's running, if it's paused, if you want to do some actions on it, you can do it all from ACM, right? So that's the main goal of that virtual machine menu. Is that good? Was that too much? I hope it doesn't sound a lot.
No, that's solid. And I guess because of the tendency of OpenShift, if my friend Rohan, for example, was spinning up a bunch of VMs and I could see him with the tendency of his account to all of those VMs, and you kind of get all the abilities of OpenShift with my virtual machines as well, and I can manage them from here.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah.
So I can, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
If I keep going in this demo, we can see some other stuff. Like it's good to see, the inventory list and see where VMs are running, their IPs, and etc. But we want to make sure that users can also take action, right? And by take action, I mean all the basic operations that a VM admin can do, like start a virtual machine or stop or pause, take snapshots, things of that nature, right? And you can do it all from ACM as well. That's what you see exactly on the screen. You see there's a little 3-button icon at the very left, right? And if you click that, you'll see all the options you have for the virtual machine. So it's really just an overview screen where you can see your virtual machines and take action on them. So I guess that's the main idea.
Yeah, and I guess just for my curiosity, so I understand the start stop actions. The virtual machine itself, like if I was to do that edit, is it YAML or how is it composed? How is ACM being able to configure?
Good question. That's a very good question. I'll go back just one step or maybe two, where I show the actual single view for the Fedora-AI VM. And it's not part of this demo itself, but if you look at I don't know if you can see my cursor. Can
Yeah,
you see it? No. Yeah. So there's a YAML tab, right? So, Kubernetes by design, it's pretty much a declarative platform, right? Meaning everything you do in Kubernetes it's about declarative state, right? Declarative YAML, like it's all in a YAML file. So it's the same for VMs. If you want to edit, some configurations of that VM, I'll pick an example like maybe the size, or you want to edit some labels of that VM. You could just come here and edit the YAML directly from ACM and apply your edits, and then it's done. You can do it from here. So
that's cool. That's very
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's all the power of Kubernetes, but now for these virtual machines. That's awesome. I haven't tried
yeah,
it out yet, but I should.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get excited all the time. Like, I might be biased, but it's pretty exciting. Like, uh, of course, this work that we do in ACM is all based on open source projects, pretty much as every Red Hat product that Red Hat offers. So this one is pretty much based on open cluster management. The ACM bits pretty much come from a community project called open source project. And for this feature itself, we combine it with Kubevert, which is a thriving open source project that every time I go to conferences like, KubeCon, or I don't know, open source summits, any conference about cloud native technologies, people are always excited about Kubevert. So it's really exciting and nice to see this work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah,
hear about
yeah,
Kubeflow all the time. So that's
yeah,
what's under the hood.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, awesome. Yeah, let's keep running through. This is great.
All right. So I guess we were like the main topic here was about observability, right? So I'll give some more examples because that's what comes next in the demo. So again, I'm gonna pick another example. This time is a CentOS Stream 9 virtual machine. And I didn't talk about this launch buttons, right? The launch buttons are really nice because it actually let you go directly to the VM where it's running and do some other stuff, right? So on the left, for example, you have the web console, which pretty much means if you click on this launch button, it takes you to the VM, right? There's a VMC console where you can actually log in and like run your scripts on your VM, right? You don't need to SSH or anything. You can do it from here. But this time, I'm just focusing on observability, right? So I want to see metrics from that VM because it's pretty natural for a VM admin to be able to look at the metrics and see if the VM is nice, is healthy, or if it's doing something wrong, right? So I'll just go ahead and look at the metrics. And then once I click on that launch button for the metrics, it takes me to a dashboard, right, where I can see much more information. So for example, I can see things like resource utilization, right? I can look at CPU, memory, network, storage, right? So all of this in this single dashboard for this VM itself, right? That's what you see in this screen. But also, this is a single VM dashboard. You're just seeing information about a single VM. But again, I don't know if you noticed or anybody in the audience noticed, there's also a button at the top of ACM screen, the ACM console, called Observability Dashboards, right? If I go here, I can actually see a very similar dashboard, but that focuses on a multi-cluster perspective, right? So it's not showing only information about one VM, but it shows information about all the clusters that has virtual machines running on top of them, right? So I'll just give you a basic example in this one. It shows that ACM has actually 3 clusters, right? It shows a couple of alerts, so there is no critical alerts. There's one warning, which is not bad. There's a total of 444 VMs, which 316 are running, right? So this is just some of the information that is really helpful for really anyone who is managing all of these virtual machines. If they were to do the same things in a manual manner, like individually for any cluster or virtual machine, it would be much more difficult for them, right?
Right. So it's kind of that macro versus micro perspective that you get with Grafana and
Yeah,
I guess Prometheus, right? Where you can
exactly.
zoom in to see, hey, how is this one VM performing? And then I'm assuming like if I have these 7 errors, I can click into that, restart
Exactly.
them, and
Yeah,
hopefully be good to go, right?
yeah,
Fingers
yeah, yeah. I mean,
very
that's observability, right? You got to look at the metrics, logs, all of this information, and take action. And that's what ACM is trying to help. Make sure you have the right information and take action, um, just based on this information. So
right. I'm a
that's
developer, so I don't really get to look back here much. I just ship
you
it and
should, you should.
pray,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's good. It's good you mentioned this because one of the things that we will show in this demo is about RBAC, right? Permissions.
Mhm.
So one example that we have for developers is that we want to make sure that if a developer creates a new VM in a given cluster or namespace, he has access to certain metrics from that VM that he just created. Because usually developers create, their own code and they test locally, but they want to take a look at the CPUs or the memory, the resources that they are using. And if you are able to apply the right permissions in ACM, they can just log in and look at the metrics that they are consuming, the CPU, the memory, just for
Mm.
their use case, for their code. So that's something we're going to look at in just a few minutes, I guess.
Right. So if my app has a
Yeah.
memory dump, I can be like, "Oh, that's my fault now." Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, that's maybe that's too much, too good of a feature. Maybe that's too good.
Yep.
We got a question as we're here in observability too.
Yep.
My bad if I'm mispronouncing it, but Bjorn said this Grafana stuff, these capabilities, does it come by default with ACM, or do you need the observability operator?
Oh, that's a great question. Because when you install ACM, the dashboards are not ready natively, meaning when you install right away, you don't see the dashboards, but you have to enable it through a little configuration within ACM. It's not hard. It's just that you have to specify the storage layer you have to use for the dashboards. Because if you think about it, these are metrics, right? And metrics needs to be stored somewhere, right? So once you enable that in ACM and specify the storage where you want to aggregate all of those metrics, then observability is ready for you to consume right away. That's the only thing. Does
Very
that make
cool.
sense? Yeah,
That makes sense to me. You got to store the data somewhere, like a PVC or something,
exactly.
I guess.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
awesome. And his other comment was making the dashboards more editable. So the thing is, we've kind of got a lot of we call them interactive experiences, because it's kind of, there's demos on like, distributed AI inference, right, which would be so expensive to spin up. So it's kind of just like, hey,
Yeah,
we've captured this moment for you, and you can click around and stuff. So
yeah.
it's a good comment, but there's a lot of other interactive experiences that you can check out that have more to offer as well if you're looking for stuff.
Right
But
on.
yeah,
Yeah.
back to you, Luis.
All right, I'll just keep going. This is probably very close to the end of the observability section. It's just showing the other panels for the other information, the node information, CPU, like I was saying, memory. You can see those consumption metrics from, over time. I think the aggregation goes up to 15 days. It's up to the user to define, how long they want to see those metrics. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. So I can set up a custom dashboard for my team,
Exactly. Yeah.
right, with all the developers and their memory. memory dumps on their apps.
That's right.
Cool.
That's right.
Awesome. I love this. So very cool. So this is managing and monitoring the virtual machines. So, I mean, I hadn't seen this capability before. So this is coming with 2.14.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool.
The new version. Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. This wraps up this section for monitoring. And our next one is just the one that I was saying, the fine-grained access control for VMs. And this one is brand new. This one comes with 2.14 only. Is a technology preview feature, meaning that it's not GA, but it is supported. And we are trying to also hear back from, customers and users to see if that is working well for them. That's a very, wanted feature that we've been hearing from customers. And I'll just get started and see to show what is possible here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, this is the access control menu. Pretty much from here, ACM lets you define permissions, right? For who can see a certain object. And for now, this is just for virtual machines. In the future, this will also encompass other use cases, other resources as well. So example, in this screen, there is just two permissions, right? Two something that we call rules, RBAC rules. The first one is just I'm giving the DevOps group view access to all namespaces. So if I'm a user and I'm part of the DevOps group, it means pretty much I can access as a read-only manner all the namespaces in the local cluster, right? So there are a few, attributes and concepts that I have to play with. That together they construct a permission, right? I'll just jump into the second example. In the second one, I'm defining from ACM that the cluster admins group, they actually have admin access to all namespaces in the local cluster, right? So this is just a centralized way for users and administrators to define rules. So this is one thing that a lot of people struggle with because the rules can go, way bigger than this list that we just have two in this example. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have one single screen or one single way for you to manage all of that. That's what it's all about.
Right. So if I would be to create this access control configuration, would it be through YAML or would it be through like a click-through form, like I'm used to with the console?
Yeah. So good question. Again, you could do both. YAML is always possible with Kubernetes. So I'll just go ahead because I have an example here. So let's try to create a permission.
What a coincidence.
So I knew you were going to ask. So I knew it was right next to it. So yeah, right now I'm showing you the wizard as you asked. There's a wizard. When you click the create permission button, there's a wizard that you can follow and fill in with the information like cluster, the name. And as you create the rule, I'll just keep progressing with the demo. So here I'm just selecting which cluster I want to create the rule for. I gave it a name, and if I hit next, this is where I define something called role bindings, which I believe most of the Kubernetes users, they will be familiar with that concept, which is pretty much I'm binding a role to a given user or a group, right? As I keep going through this, I'm giving, I'm selecting the default namespace. I'm selecting user called John, and I'm giving admin rights for John to the default namespace. And if you see on the right, it's populating the YAML as well. So if I want to just use the wizard to build the YAML, get the YAML and apply it manually through the CLI or through GitOps, that's possible too. So that's the nice thing about the wizard.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So I could have all this configuration in a repo and
exactly, yeah,
add somebody, make the PR, and bam, it would do this as well.
That's right. Yeah.
That's pretty
It's up
cool.
to the user. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I'm really showing in the interactive demonstration. And you see here's our new rule: John admin default namespace, right?
Nice.
The cool thing about this is this demo I'm actually testing just because I need some proof to make sure it works. So reminder, in this example, we have 4 virtual machines. So I guess one of them is running on the default namespace in this staging cluster. That's the space that we gave John permissions to be an administrator. So in this case, what this means is when I log in as the John user, I should be able to just see this one VM, right? Because I just have permissions for this one and not to the other ones. So let's see.
Let's try it out.
I'll log in as John.
Mm-hmm.
And notice that this time I'm not logging into ACM. I'm logging into the actual cluster that the VM is running. And that's what I see. If you see here, this is my list of VMs. I have just one, the CentOS Stream 9. And in the default projects or namespace, right? So I guess this is just some sort of proof that, the rule is applied and it's working. Because logged in as the John user, I'm able to see just the CentOS Stream 9 namespace virtual machine.
Very cool. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. Again, just pretty quickly, if you log in as John in ACM, you would just see this one as well. So sometimes, you want to see the VM from the cluster itself, or you want to see it from ACM. You could do both. It really depends on how you structure, your teams and your access. But you could log in both, either in ACM or in the cluster itself, and you would have the same visualization. So that's the pretty cool part about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess this is a feature that, like I said before, it was very much awaited from a lot of people. So we're again willing to hear from users, from people who are interested in, and see if that's something that they probably approve, they would use, or if they would like to see something else again added to this feature. So it's really open to feedback at this point, but it's pretty stable, I would say, in terms of supportability. So just want to make sure that people know that.
Well, yeah. So this is still you said it's a development feature, right? Or
technology preview.
Technology preview.
Yeah. We usually separate between these 3, I guess, levels, right? So there's developer preview, there's technology preview in the middle, and there's the GA, right?
I see.
If it's developer preview, it's usually not supported. It's really a feature in development that some customers and some users like to be, early adopters. So they want to test and provide feedback and be there really in the early stages of development. But this one is really in tech preview, where we are past the developer preview stage. We are, providing a supported feature, and it should be GA pretty soon, hopefully in the next release 2.15.
Okay, looking forward to it. I think there is some feedback in the chat on it about when you use Argo CD to control the policies. Apparently, Argo manages a different label set of the elements. So I don't know, something to look into, I guess. How we can do the applying of GitOps to the cluster.
Yeah.
But it's these things, they're still in work, but I guess enough people asked for this capability for you guys to have to put it in.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, this is great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I guess that's the end of permissions, which takes us to the next one, right sizing. Yeah, this one, again, people always ask for it. Right sizing, to me, it's a very kind of delicate subject, because, one of the main problems I see personally with Kubernetes is people not really sizing their environments pretty well. And I'm not saying they're doing it, badly. It's just hard sometimes to understand how much resource your application needs or your environment needs, right? We were just saying, like, we were showing observability dashboards and how much importance the observability dashboards and the metrics they have for us to decide how much CPU we want to give to an application, to namespace, if it's consuming more than it should. So that topic is very important, but also, how do you know, right? How do you know what's the right number of resources to give your users, to give a developer, to give to an application? So that's the problem that right sizing tries to solve, right? We do this again with observability. So observability, as you see, is a very strong topic for ACM. It adds, a lot of value for the platform. And in the latest release, we are again making available a new feature for the users to go to a dashboard and see recommendations on about how much memory and how much CPU they should give to a given namespace or a given workload. I'll just skip through this part because this goes through the installation, so people can always go back and watch or even look at the docs. I want to go straight to the actual dashboard, right? So this is what I was mentioning. This is what I was talking about. The new feature, right sizing for namespaces and workloads in ACM, it's pretty much a dashboard that gives you recommendations based on the behavior of your namespaces and pods, right? So TLDR, what it actually does is it analyzes your namespaces and workloads over time. It understands, an average, how much CPU and memory the application is using, and it gives you a recommendation based on, the latest trends, right? That makes sense? Because it's a little, maybe too much information. I want to make sure that, that is clear.
No, it makes sense. You have information from each VM, and you have information from all the clusters. It's smart to use that, intelligently to then maybe save some money or
Exactly
usage, right? Because this compute's not cheap, right?
Yep. You made a very good point. This really relates to cost management, right? People are always using tools and finding ways to cut costs. So this could be one, right? Sizing. I guess I'll just go through and look at the examples, because on the left panel, there's a good example. You see the CPU usage right now for this cluster, which is spoke to. Right now it's 15.2. So there are pretty much 15.2 CPUs in usage. And again, if you look at the requests, it's actually 51. Right? So Kubernetes is actually reserving a lot of CPU for the applications, but the actual usage is pretty much lower than this number, right? So the right sizing dashboard will pretty much make some calculations based on the utilization in the last few days. I see an aggregation of 5 days, and these values will change based on the aggregation time, right? So if you want to make sure that the right sizing feature, if you want to look and compare numbers from maybe 15 days ago, you can change that as well, right? And it's probably going to give you a different recommendation, right? And this is per cluster, but if I keep going, it'll also give information about the namespaces, right? So I think this is going to go down a little bit, yeah. And I see a recommendation for each namespace as well. So yeah, this is giving information for both clusters and individual namespaces. That's the main goal.
Right. And so here I can see, okay, what's going on per namespace. But does this automatically apply the adjustments to the cluster or to the namespace, or is this something I'll have to do manually?
Yeah, Cedric, you're coming with the right questions.
Oh. We did not practice this, I promise.
So yeah, that's a great question because that's something I didn't say. I didn't explicitly explain. These are just recommendations, so it doesn't have the power to apply it automatically. So if the user looks at this information and thinks it makes sense to update, it has to go and update manually, right? But no, it doesn't apply automatically. That's the short answer.
I got you. That's probably a
Yeah,
good thing because it's good to have
yeah,
human in the loop for stuff like this, where,
for sure.
hey,
Yeah,
I verify that this is the change I want to make, and then it's not YOLO. Like, oh,
yeah,
why, why have all of our applications stopped? Okay,
yeah,
very cool.
yeah. That's something interesting because there are some, some we call critical operations. So things like changing a CPU request for a namespace, we consider that a critical operation. Another example is DR, right? We have DR capabilities for VMs in ACM, but again, it's not automatic. We pretty much we have to have a user click a button and approve the whole DR workflow for the workflow to really go through and happen. So I guess that's a pattern that we usually take into consideration. For critical operations, there needs to be a human or someone to click a button and make sure ACM is not doing too much for the environments. So that's good. You mentioned this. I guess if I just keep going forward, this dashboard is available for CPU and memory only. A lot of people ask for other metrics. Like it's good to have recommendations for memory and CPU, but people look at things like networking. How many what's the input the inbound and outbound metrics for my the network for the VMs, or what's the storage like for the VMs as well. So that's a request that we heard from customers. They want to see recommendations for storage configurations and networking as well, and I think that's underway as well. So just want to make sure I give this little news for the audience.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was right size. I guess that covers the third big bullet that we had for the demo.
Sweet. Nice.
Yeah, I guess to wrap it up, we have other enhancements. So we've covered most of the most important features that we talked about. We also, of course, release some other features. Not that they are less important. It's just that it's too much for us to cover in an hour. I really could go all day talking about all of them. But these are some others. I put 6 in this slide, which I think it's more they're more appealing and interesting for the audience. If they go through, they can see information for each one of them. There are features available for cluster lifecycle. This is again a very, very nice topic. People look for ways to streamline and standardize cluster provisioning, cluster removals, right? So that's all about cluster lifecycle features. I'll quickly go through each one of them. So if I go to application sets, well, let me go here first just to show what it is. This is again, open source contributions from ACM and the CAPI project, Cluster API. The next one is ApplicationSets Progressive Sync. It's a new feature that we are releasing and integrating in ACM. It's pretty much a capability that allows users to to deploy applications from one environment to the other. But for you to do it safely, you have to do it like carefully, right? And make sure the application goes through development environment first, and then go to testing, and then goes to prod, pretty much like a pipeline. And then if you want to do it from Argo with GitOps, you need some extra configurations and tooling. which is about this progressive sync feature that we are releasing again as a track preview. So this is a nice one too. People always like GitOps for certain things. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should I just continue, stop for questions, or I can just go and do a quick overview of all of them and see if it lands well with the audience? What do you think? Should I just go ahead?
If there's any that you're passionate about, like I'm a Argo guy. I like Argo features, but any of them, it's up to you.
Yeah. So let me go back to the menu. I guess I'm really excited about policies, right? Which is something that I didn't mention much about in this demo recording. But people ask a lot about policies. I don't know if you, Cedric, had heard much about policies. But policies is pretty much, yeah. I mean, policies something I will say kind of new to the cloud native Kubernetes ecosystem, but it evolved a lot in the latest years because policies is pretty powerful. Think of policies as a way to apply configurations and make sure they don't drift in Kubernetes, right? We were just saying at the beginning of this live stream that like everything in Kubernetes is based on, declarative state, right? But nothing stops a user from going to a YAML and make changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can make mistakes. They can go to the wrong YAML and make mistakes if they have the right permissions, right? If they have the right RBAC. That's why that's the beauty of it, because it's all connected. But what policy does is pretty much it makes sure that the desired state is always met, right? So you could have a policy, for example, to install a operator on OpenShift, right? I want to make sure that my operator is installed, that nobody touches it. And even if someone touches it, maybe there's an admin who has permissions to touch the installation of an operator. I want to make sure that there are rules and guidelines and guardrails to make sure that my system stays healthy. And that means that the policy will be taking care of that installation, right? That is very basic definition of policy. There are much more, capabilities within the policy engines, but that is what policy really does. It just keeps looking at a certain configuration in Kubernetes and make sure that configuration is met at all times, right? That's why we
Mm-hmm.
call it policies.
Is this like a cron job or something, or is it event driven, or both?
It's not a cron job. It's actually a Kubernetes controller, right? So there is like something we call controller, which is pretty much a software that runs on Kubernetes and keeps checking for any changes or any drift, right? And it applies the desired state back to what it was before, right? Usually there are two options. The policy could enforce a given configuration, or it could just inform the user that something changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually there are these two ways to work with policies, and it really depends on what you want to do with policies. The use cases are, very very big, but that's what it is.
Very cool. Yeah. That's something I definitely did not know about, but
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah. Again, I talked about policies. I talked a lot, but I didn't explain what this new feature is. One of the problem with the policies is that like people write policies and they create policies, but they don't have a way to test, right? Because they create a policy, they apply to a Kubernetes cluster, and it's done. They got a result, right? They got some information. If it's a violation, if there's some misconfiguration in the cluster, it's really like you apply and see what happens, right? What we created from ACM is pretty much a Dryrun capability. So it's a way for you to create a policy and test it before you actually apply to a production environment, right? For
Mm-hmm.
now, this feature is pretty much a CLI tool, as you see on the screenshot on the right, but it's pretty intuitive, right? We expect a lot of these policies to be built from developers and in the CLI, so that's why this feature is primarily being used in the terminal. But if there is any interest or customer request, we can always, like we always do, open a RFE or give this feedback back to the product team and make sure we make everyone happy. So that's the feature.
That's the beauty of it. And so in the background, if I run this from my CLI, what is it connecting to, like the OC command line? And then how is it testing the policy? Is it replicating the namespace as a test and then doing some configuration with that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's pretty much that is handled by the policy controller. Like I said, there is a controller that handles this request. So yeah, you're right. It's using the OC CLI in the back. So if you run policy tools, which is the name of the utility, it will connect to the cluster that you have configured in your kubeconfig file, right?
Mm.
But the actual work, the actual code that handles the testing, it doesn't replicate namespace or anything fancy. It's just everything handled by the policy controller. So it's pretty much transparent to the cluster and to the user. So
Pretty cool. Nice.
yeah,
Sweet.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I could just keep going and see the last ones. Gatekeeper, again, I didn't mention this, but Gatekeeper is a way for users to use policies as well. I told you policies is a very evolving topic. It's really growing a lot in the latest years. So if you look on the internet, you will see very different policy types. Things like Gatekeeper is one. Another one very famous these days is Kyverno. You probably heard about at some point. But yeah, so there are different policy types and engines, as the users like to say. And from ACM perspective, we support pretty much the three of them. We have the ACM policies, we have Gatekeeper as a supported policy as well, and we have the Kyverno policies. So it's really up to the user, up to their use case. What's the policy flavor they want to use? We want to make sure they have open flexibility of choice as always. So ACM is
Nice.
that's probably I was gonna say that was the last one, but this is the last one. I didn't want to miss the chance to talk about this one. ACM, if you haven't tried it yet, it's now available on AWS Marketplace. So if you log into AWS and search for Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management, you could get subscriptions for ACM directly from the marketplace. Again, this is great flexibility if you don't want to. Sometimes there are customers that they have credits in their AWS accounts, right? And they have to use the marketplace. So if you want to give it a try in ACM, that's a quick purchase from there. You don't need to go through Red Hat for this. This is again one of the latest announcements we have for the latest release. So I want to make sure I put this here.
That's great. Yeah. Because I mean, tons of people, especially startups, have like $500,000 in credits, and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. Well, millions of clusters. Exactly. Good use case.
That's right. Yeah, Cedric, I guess that concludes most of the demonstration. It's really easy to go back if anyone wants to see any feature or section of the demo in particular. There's a menu here. And yeah, I guess that covers most of it.
Yeah, man. Well, Luiz, this was a very, very awesome, comprehensive demo to go through, all these new 2.14 features and updates, and actually see it like practically is awesome. And I'm glad we were able to talk through this. For anyone who joined late, the demo that we went through is up there on the top left-hand corner. and you can try out exactly what we tried out today that Luiz was showing. But also, if you go to the interactive experiences page, that's where you can see all types of AI and hybrid cloud and containers and Linux and virtualization demos and interactive tutorials so that you can learn how it works behind the scenes. And we really appreciate your time, right? So on behalf of myself and Luiz and Rohan behind the scenes, behind in the studio, we want to say a big thank you to joining us for this first episode. I hope you enjoyed the series and the concept as we kind of dive deep into technical capabilities, and we're going to keep doing this. There's going to be future episodes which you'll be notified, and you can also check the description in order to get some handy links. But yeah, try out the interactive experiences. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you in a few weeks for the next demo deep dive. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day and have a good weekend, and see you again soon. Ciao.